Welcome to the very first episode of our series, Personal Lessons from the Crypto Journey. I'm Lisa, your host, and joining me today is Henry. Let's start strong. Everyone has a first mistake in crypto. Can you share yours?
Sure, Lisa. My very first major mistake was FOMOing into a coin at the top. I still remember, it was 2021, bull market, everyone was making crazy gains. You go on Twitter or YouTube, and it's all 10x this, 100x that. I was new, just getting into crypto, and I thought, if I don't get in now, I'll miss the train forever.
Classic FOMO. So what did you buy?
It was a low-cap altcoin, very trendy at the time, hyped as the next Ethereum killer. I bought it at its all-time high, literally at the peak of the green candle. Zero research, just vibes and Twitter hype. 2 days later, the price dropped 30%. Within a week, it was down 60%.
Ouch. And what was going through your head at that point?
I was in shock. At first, denial, it's just a dip, it'll bounce back. Then came panic, then regret. I remember refreshing the chart every few minutes, hoping for some miracle. It never came. That's when I realized, buying crypto without understanding is not investing. It's gambling.
So true. And I think that hits home for a lot of listeners who jumped in during the hype cycle. Do you remember what triggered your decision to buy in the first place?
Yeah, social media. I kept seeing tweets like, this coin is going to the moon, or if you're not buying this, you'll regret it in 5 years. And then screenshots of crazy profits, like turned $500 into $15,000. You know the type.
Oh yeah, the look at my wallet flex posts.
Exactly. And I didn't want to feel left out. FOMO isn't just fear of missing money, it's fear of missing belonging. I wanted to be part of that winning crowd. But the reality is, by the time you hear about a coin going viral, it's usually too late. The early investors are dumping while you're buying.
That's such an important point. When everyone's shouting, buy now, they've probably already bought.
Right. I learned that the hard way. I lost around 80% of that investment. It hurt, but in hindsight, it was one of the best lessons I ever learned.
So, what was the biggest takeaway for you from that moment?
2 things. Never invest based on hype, and always have a plan before entering any position. Now I ask myself 3 questions before every investment. Do I understand what this project does? What's my entry and exit strategy? What's the worst case scenario, and can I accept it? If I can't answer those, I don't enter.
Love that. So simple, but so powerful. It's really about discipline.
Exactly. And back then, I had none. I was chasing green candles without realizing I was just feeding the whales.
Okay, so after the crash, what happened next? Did you quit crypto for a while or keep going?
That's a whole other story, which I'd love to share in part 2. Spoiler alert, I almost quit. But instead, I took a break, studied the market, and came back stronger. It was painful, but necessary.
I'm excited to hear that. So in the next segment, we'll dive into how Henry mentally recovered from the loss and how that experience shaped his long-term strategy in crypto. Welcome back to part 2 of our first episode, My First FOMO, Buying at the Top. In the last segment, Henry shared how he jumped into a hyped coin at its peak without doing research and lost nearly 80% of his investment. Now, the big question, what happened after that? Henry, did you step away from crypto?
Honestly, I almost quit. After watching my portfolio bleed day after day, I went into a sort of emotional shutdown. I stopped opening the app, stopped checking Twitter. I felt ashamed. Ashamed that I let hype override common sense. I kept asking myself, how could I be so stupid?
That's a really raw place to be. And I think many listeners have been there, especially those who joined during the bull runs.
Yeah, it felt like I'd failed not just financially, but mentally. I started doubting my ability to make smart decisions. And that's dangerous because it can spiral into crypto is a scam, or worse, I'm not meant for this. But after a few weeks of just sitting with that feeling, I had a turning point.
What sparked that shift?
I came across a podcast episode, ironically, kind of like this one, where a trader said, Your first big loss is the tuition you pay to the market. That hit me hard because I realized I wasn't the only one. Everyone pays tuition. No one enters this space perfectly. It's just that the market teaches harshly and fast.
That's so true. The market doesn't care how smart you are. It only rewards those who learn fast and stay disciplined.
Exactly. So instead of running away, I decided to treat that FOMO loss as a lesson, not a defeat. I started journaling my thoughts, what I felt, what I did wrong, and what I wish I had known.
That's such a healthy way to process it. Were there any patterns you noticed in hindsight?
Oh, absolutely. I noticed 5 key patterns in my behavior. Number 1 is I made the decision too fast. I saw the coin was pumping and bought it within minutes. No research, no strategy, just emotion. Number 2 is I overallocated. I put in more money than I could afford to lose. That made the emotional impact even worse. Number 3 is I didn't have an exit plan. I bought thinking it would go to the moon, but never asked what price would I be happy to sell at. Number 4 is I was influenced by people I didn't know. Twitter threads, TikTok clips, Telegram channels, none of them had skin in my game, yet they shaped my decision. Number 5 is I thought short term. I was chasing quick profits instead of looking at long-term value.
That sounds like a masterclass in self-awareness. And I think the part about exit plans is underrated. So many people talk about when to buy, but few ever think about when to sell.
Exactly. I now believe you should know your exit before you enter. Otherwise, you're just gambling with hope.
So after reflecting, what did you change in your approach?
The first thing was education. I spent months studying the basics. What gives crypto value? How to read tokenomics? What is market psychology? How do whales manipulate emotions? I watched interviews with real builders, read white papers, took notes. I didn't touch another coin until I understood what I was getting into.
That's discipline. And it probably saved you from repeating the same mistake.
For sure. Then I built a personal investment framework. Nothing fancy, just simple rules. Never invest in a coin unless I can explain its use case. Limit each position to no more than 5% of my total portfolio. Avoid coins that have already 5x'd in a week. Always set stop losses or have a mental threshold to cut losses.
That's practical. What about emotionally? How did you rebuild your confidence?
Good question. Emotionally, I had to forgive myself. It took time, but I had to stop replaying the loss in my head and start seeing myself not as a loser, but as a student. I reminded myself, every pro investor started as a beginner. I'm just early in the journey. Also, I started focusing on long-term goals. I wasn't here to get rich in a week. I was here to build wealth over years. That mindset shift changed everything.
That's powerful. Because crypto does move fast, but sustainable wealth, that takes time and patience.
Exactly. I realized I needed to zoom out. I was looking at hourly charts, feeling panic. But when I started looking at weekly trends, understanding cycles, and zooming out to a 5-10 year perspective, the noise faded.
So it's less about catching the perfect trade and more about staying in the game long enough to win.
100%. Most people lose not because they picked the wrong coin, but because they didn't have the mindset to survive the volatility.
What you've shared here is gold, because losing money is tough, but turning that loss into a growth moment, that's rare. And for everyone listening, this is the heart of investing. It's not just about making money, it's about becoming someone who can handle money.
Exactly. And if this episode helps just one person avoid that same FOMO mistake, it's worth it.
We'll wrap up this segment here, but in our final part, we'll go deep into Henry's strategies to manage FOMO, avoid emotional decisions, and build a framework for making smarter, calmer crypto investments. Welcome back to part 3 of my first FOMO, buying at the top. We've followed Henry through the initial hype, the emotional crash, and the process of reflection and recovery. Now let's talk solutions. Henry, how did you turn that painful FOMO experience into a lasting framework for investing?
This part is my favorite, because once I stopped reacting emotionally and started acting intentionally, everything changed. I built what I call my anti-FOMO framework, a set of tools and habits to keep me grounded.
Love the name. What does that framework look like?
It's made up of 5 core pillars. Before I invest, I remind myself, number 1 is mindset anchors. Opportunities are endless, but capital is limited. Missing a pump is better than catching a dump. My journey is not someone else's timeline. These mantras sound cheesy, but they're powerful. They bring me back to logic when emotion starts to rise.
Like mental guardrails.
Exactly. I repeat these often, especially during bull runs when the noise is loudest. Number 2 is information filtering. I used to consume everything: Twitter threads, TikTok, YouTube, Discord. It was overwhelming. Now I follow a small circle of trusted analysts and developers. No meme coins, no hype influencers, just real signal,
How do you decide who to trust?
track record, and transparency. I ask, do they share both wins and losses? Do they post evidence and research? Are they trying to teach or just pump bags? If they check those boxes, I listen. Otherwise, mute or unfollow. Number 3 is scheduled decision making. This one changed everything. Instead of reacting to price moves in real time, I now make investment decisions on a fixed schedule, usually Sundays. I review charts, read updates, and decide on buy-sell plans when I'm calm, not when the candles are flying.
That's so smart. No more panic buying at midnight.
Exactly. And I set alerts, so I don't even watch the charts every hour. Most FOMO happens in real time, so I remove real time from my process. Number 4 is portfolio rules. I now operate with clear rules. No more than 5% of portfolio in any single asset. No buying if something's up more than 100% in a week. Always have an exit plan, whether it's profit target or stop loss. Keep 30% in stable coins for new opportunities.
That's real discipline. You've systemized your emotions out of the game.
That's the goal. Because emotions will always be there, but systems protect you from acting on them. Number 5 is investment journaling. This one might surprise people. After every major move, buy, sell, or even when I feel FOMO, I write it down. I note what I was thinking, what triggered the decision, how I felt, what I learned. It builds self-awareness. I can go back and see patterns like, oh, every time I FOMO, I regret it within 48 hours.
That's next level. You're building a personal investor psychology guide.
Exactly. It's like a crypto diary, but for growth.
Okay, real talk. Do you still feel FOMO?
100%. I'm human. I see pumps and crazy profits just like anyone else. But now, I do 3 things when FOMO hits. Pause. I literally walk away from the screen, breathe, play the tape forward. I imagine the worst case scenario if I buy now. Usually it's losing money. Ask myself, would I still want this coin if no one else knew I bought it? That last one is key. If I'm only buying to impress or belong, that's not investing. That's ego.
Such a great filter. Would I still want it if no one saw? That's deep.
Right? Because when you strip away ego, you see the real reason behind your choices.
We've covered so much ground today, from the high of hype, the low of loss, to the rebuilding process. If you could speak to the you from back then, the one about to buy at the top, what would you say?
I'd say, slow down. You're not late. The market will be here tomorrow. But your money might not if you rush.
And to our listeners out there, whether you're new to crypto or have already FOMO'd once or twice, what's your final piece of advice?
2 things. Be kind to yourself. You will make mistakes. Just don't let them define you. Let them teach you. And fall in love with the process, not the profits. When you focus on learning and growing, the money follows eventually.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Henry, for sharing this so honestly. It's rare to hear investors open up about their early mistakes, and even rarer to see them turn those into such clear lessons.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. This episode is for anyone who's ever thought, I messed up. You didn't fail. You're just getting started.